All right. Guess what, everybody? We are back. Shoot the Fire podcast with myself, host Xavier Porter, co-host Pat DeMoss in the cut chilling. What's good, Pat?
Hello. How you doing?
I'm okay. We had a lot of things going on this past week, man. A lot of things happening in both worlds of MMA and boxing. Fantastic weekend of just combat sports alone. You know, what are your thoughts on what took place this weekend?
There was a lot going on this weekend. We had a UFC fight night. Of course, we had the big GGG Canelo rematch. Overall, I think it was a great weekend for combat sports.
I agree.
Yeah.
For the UFC, I missed the episode in the UFC. I was probably doing something different. Let me know what took place.
So last week we had UFC Fight Night 136. That took place at the Olympic Stadium, headlined by Mark Hunt and Alexei Oleinik. But next weekend we have UFC Fight Night 137. That's Thiago Santos and Eric Anders in a light heavyweight bout. This is very crazy because Eric Anders is, of course, natural middleweight, but he's stepping up a weight, taking on a big striker in Thiago Santos. And breaking news, we have Jon Jones eligible to fight next month after USADA gives him a 15th-month suspension. So a lot of stuff to talk about in the world of MMA. What do you have on the side of boxing for us today, X?
I mean, last week was a little cuckoo. Watching the Canelo fight against Triple G and watching David Lemieux score a sensational first-round knockout over Irish Gary O'Sullivan, who was literally, basically taunting him to the lead up of the fight, Also, Facebook Fight Night Live, they had a fantastic call last Friday night, over close to 200,000 views. They just signed a great partnership with Everlast, so expect a lot of great things taking place with them. They have about 24 fights that's going to be announced coming up during the next week, so, stay tuned, locked in for that. Floyd Mayweather appears to be coming out of retirement, challenging Manny Pacquiao. Oh, yeah. That should be entertaining. And this Saturday, we have the big heavyweight title fight with Anthony Joshua facing Alexander Povetkin. All the belts is on the line, so let's get it popping, man. Let's get it popping. So take us from the top, Pat. Take us from the top.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about some stuff here. First of all, I do want to recap UFC Fight Night 136. Not a lot of shockers on this card. It was a decent card to watch. I have Alexei Oleinik. I had him submitting Mark Hunt, to be honest. Mark Hunt's up there in age. Oleinik has a decent chin, and he ends up submitting Mark Hunt in the first round. Jan Blachowicz in the light heavyweight division submitted Nikita Krylov. That's a huge win for him as he tries to move up and see what is next for him in the light heavyweight division. We also had Andrei Arlovsky getting decision by Shamil Abdurakhimov. I think it's his name, probably butchered it, but Andrei is one of those fighters that he's not old, but he's still relevant into the sport, right? He's a great athlete. He's still in pretty decent shape. It's just he's had a lot of fights over the years, and it's just, maybe closing in on his time to possibly wrap up things on his career side. But, I've never wanted to tell someone to retire. But, again, I don't know really where forward mobility is for him in his career at this point. And that's kind of tough. A lot of fighters, they get near the end of that road, and they're kind of like, oh, I can keep going, I want to keep going. And it's tough to leave any sport, right? Even if you played Little League football as a kid or whatever it was, if you grow into that sport, especially as a teenager, it's tough to leave a sport. And I can't imagine, as a professional athlete, especially that many years in the sport, that much years of dedication and hard work, what it actually means to leave the sport. But that's just my thoughts. It was a pretty good card overall. There's quite a few finishes, but there was some fights decision-wise. But overall, I thought it was a pretty decent card, especially being free. You really can't complain there. Next weekend, though, we have UFC Fight Night 137. And it's a pretty good card. We have Tiger Santos taking on Eric Anders. Eric Anders played football for Alabama. Oh, yeah, Alabama football, baby. Roll Tide. Just kidding. I'm not a Roll Tide fan, but he's a tremendous athlete nonetheless. And he's taking on Thiago Santos. He carries a lot of power. This fight's sure to be fireworks. So that's a great main event, to be honest. For a fight night card, that's perfect. Alex Oliveira, who's a popular welterweight, is coming in, taking on Carlo Pedersoli Jr. In the co-main. We got Sam Alvey at light heavyweight return to take on Little Nog. So that is interesting. That's a legend fight right there in itself. And
you said Little Nog, that's Antonio's little brother?
Yes, that's Big Nog's little brother. And I believe this is taking place in Brazil, yeah. So, surprised he's not the co-main, being what his name really means to the country of Brazil and jiu-jitsu and just martial arts as a whole. But, yeah, interesting marketing decision there by the UFC not to bump that up. However, we move on. We have Rener Brau taking on Andre Ewell. Don't know too much about him, but I do know a lot about Rener Brau, being the former bantamweight champion. He is a very dangerous striker, but he's kind of been in a slump lately. So hopefully this is his coming out party, saying, hey, I'm not done just yet in this division. But we shall see. Francisco Trinaldo takes on Evan Dunham in a lightweight battle also on this card, as well as Charles Oliveira taking on Christos Glassos. Those are two exciting lightweight bouts that will be on the card. Chase Sherman takes on Augusto Sakai at heavyweight. That's sure to be a barn burner. And Ben Saunders is also on the card, taking on Sergio Moraes. That's a great welterweight fight as well. Hopefully Ben Saunders, again, he's kind of in that place of like, should we as fans be like, maybe it's time to hang it up. Can we debate about it? Yeah. But again, it's really tough for these athletes to walk away from the sport. Talis Leitis is taking on Hector Lombard also. These are two veterans as well. And that fight's taking place in middleweight. So that is also a fight to look forward to as well, because both men are extremely talented martial artists. There's been some breaking news, X. Some huge news. Now, if there's someone with, of course, Conor McGregor's the biggest appeal in the UFC, but there's someone with a lot of star power that you could put next to Conor McGregor. It's Jon Jones, right? You'd agree with that?
For you, from the MMA standpoint, from the UFC standpoint?
Yes, from the UFC standpoint.
I would say he's probably definitely that guy, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to know what's taking place with him in his career.
Exactly. Now, Jon Jones, if you don't know, tested positive for steroids back at, I want to say, UFC 2. I'm not for sure what UFC it was. UFC 200 something. That's bothering me now. I think UFC 214. Let me make sure on this really quick. Yeah, UFC 214. Jon Jones knocked out Daniel Cormier with a head kick and won the light heavyweight belt. Of course, this fight was overturned due to Jon Jones testing positive for a steroid. It's been quite some time since we've heard something about this. But news just broke. USADA has UFC has given UC gave him a 15th month or USADA gave him, a 15th month suspension. This means Jon Jones is eligible to fight next month. A lot of people are on the fence about this because they're like, this is corrupt. He should have a 4-year suspension. This is not his first time popping for an illegal substance. However, Dana White has made a statement. I don't have it pulled up right now. See if I can find it really quick. Okay. Yeah, it's not. He's saying that it's not true that he'll headline UFC 230, but how many times have we heard Dana White say something's not true, and it turns out it's true. However, he said he's looking forward to seeing him getting back next year. He said, the arbitrator found that Jon Jones never intentionally or knowingly took steroids, and the result of the positive test was the result of a contaminated substance. White wrote, the science completely supports that finding. The science doesn't lie, so I look forward to getting him back early next year. I don't believe that. I think they're going to want to get Jon Jones, and I think Jon Jones is going to want to get back in there as soon as possible. Why wait? If you're eligible next month to fight, and you've already been out this long since UFC 214, over a year, why not return as soon as you can? That doesn't make any sense to me. Dana White, of course, said not true to many things, and it turns out, again, it's true. People have speculated he's fighting Alexander Gustafsson, and they've obviously contemplated that he's fighting Daniel Cormier. But I want to ask you something, X. What do you think about, not just Jon Jones, but just martial art athletes in general testing positive for a banned substance? It happens in boxing, happens in MMA, happens in BJJ. What do you think about it?
I think it's pretty obvious that, I would say it like this. I think each case needs to be looked at differently on an individual basis. I don't necessarily think each person that's getting caught taking whatever banned substance is actually guilty of malicious intent, like they meant to take the substance. I think some people get caught up in taking all these different vitamins and proteins and drink whatever have you to stay fit, to stay in shape, and to get that extra edge of energy or boost the energy and things like that. So I don't think a lot of times that these athletes are really looking at, or some of these athletes are really looking at what they're putting inside their body. They're just taking whatever they're taking to stay fit. Then you got to also look at the fact that sometimes you got a guy in your camp that may not have your best interest at heart and may slip something in your drink or may slip something in your food or ingest it with something, and then next thing you know, you get caught with a banned substance. But then you have those guys that are actually knowing full well what they are doing. Those are the guys that we need to focus on getting out of the sport or whatever sport, MMA, tennis, basketball, football, boxing. Those people who are actively knowing that they're taking a substance to enhance their skills, they're the cheaters, and those guys need to be taken out of the sport.
I agree 100% that our athletes do need to be, we need to focus on the ones that get popped. I just think it's a hard process. It's really hard to determine who's knowingly cheating and who's not. It's really kind of like taking a word for it, for example. And it's so hard for these innocent guys that do get popped to prove their innocence, because if you can't find whatever you tested in one of your substances that you take that you've registered with USADA, you're kind of screwed. I know Chad Mendez, the UFC featherweight, got screwed out of this. He has a skin condition. He used the ointment cream, and it had a steroid in it, and he got busted because of that reason. They still gave him a heavy suspension, though. It's just hard. It's hard to prove your innocence, especially when you test positive for a steroid. That's why you hear some fighters like DJ, Demetrius Johnson, say that he doesn't take any type of supplements. And to be honest, I'm not comparing myself to a UFC athlete, of course, but, I do tend to, watch what I eat, and I eat healthy and everything. And, I'm on a strict in my diet to a certain amount of things. And I've noticed that, you don't need all these extra supplements. And I feel like the supplement world in itself has become very, very, not tainted, but I don't know why it's just become flooded, right? You have all these advertisements like, you need this after recovery, you need this during training, you need this, blah, 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 blah. It's like, do you really need all of that stuff to be a top athlete? Or does it just really just come down to a lot of hard work? I'm not one to sit here and say that taking those things are necessarily bad for you, but you can't sit there and tell me that these supplement companies aren't looking to make extra money. And they're not, hey, let's give this professional athlete this amount of money to say, yes, you need this after your workout. You know what I mean? I don't know, it's 50-50 with me because, 20, 30 years ago, I don't think athletes were taking near as many supplements as they were now. If they were taking steroids, I think they were just doing the old, shoot in the side of your butt kind of thing. At least from what I've seen in sports over the years, Guys that get popped are usually, back in the day, they're like, yeah, I took steroids. But now it's just all cluster with all these supplements and everything. So you really have to be careful. And we saw it in boxing as well. But speaking of boxing, and speaking of Canelo, let's go ahead and jump on over to your world. Yeah, let's go ahead and jump on over to your world. Yeah, let me tell you something. The weekend of boxing was popping, not only with news, but with fights. So without further ado, I'll let you take it away.
It's definitive that we just finished talking about banned substance and we slide right over to the Canelo fight with Triple G. And he was actually found to be taken or found to have had a banned substance in his system, not one time but twice. The clenbuterol or clenbuterol, whichever way you want to pronounce it, from eating tainted Mexican beef. But since then, he's tested negative 20 tests, I was told, actually. I read upon that he tested negative for each test, vital test, everything was cleared, was allowed to fight, have the rematch, make all the money in the world in the rematch, and actually come out as the victor in the rematch. And quite frankly, the fight was such a great fight that people are going to be talking about the decision for quite some time. They're going to be talking about the different scores on everybody's scorecard. I had the first fight was pretty good. I had Triple G winning the first fight. In a clearer fashion, whereas this fight was a little too close to call, and it was basically the same type of fight with the exception that Triple G still didn't go to the body, but utilized his jab a whole lot better, and Canelo actually stood in front of him, which a lot of people thought would be crazy. Why stand in front of such a power puncher like Triple G? But in fact, Canelo definitely stood in front of him and traded shots, moved his head when he needed, moved his shoulders when he needed to, moved his waist when he needed to, slipped, dip, dodge, counted everything that Triple G was trying to throw back, and fought an exceptional fight. I wouldn't say phenomenal, but an exceptional fight against a puncher in the style of Triple G. So hats off to both men, but definitely hats off to Canelo for winning the fight. The lead up to the fight was the promotion, the hype. It was all the way it was cracked up to be. I myself felt like, the lust of the fight was lost given the fact that he tested positive on 2 occasions with the banned substance. However, they went on and had the fight. How can you not have a fight like this of such magnitude and money to be made on both ends? You need a fight like this. You need a rematch. Thus, leaving the door open for a possible third fight, maybe sometime in January, which I highly doubt. More unlikely, if they do have a third fight, it'll probably take place in May, like how the second fight was supposed to take place last year. And it is my belief that if they have a third fight, Triple G will probably get knocked out. I believe Canelo will either stop him, TKO, or Triple G will stop and sit on the stool himself. Because I think Canelo is definitely going to excel to another plateau if they fought again. You fight the same person 2 times already, and the same things you try to do, you haven't been able to do. But now you're going to try to do it again a third time. It's obvious this person already has a step ahead of you. Just let them win. He got the victory. I know you got it. It's a tough pill to swallow. It's a tough piece of meat to swallow. But, you gotta, in my opinion, you gotta just let this one go. But I believe there's going to be a third fight. But if there's not going to be a third fight, there's a lot of other fights out there that can be made with either fighter. Danny Jacobs is getting ready to fight in a couple of weeks on October 27th for the Hulu Theater in Madison Square Garden. He's getting ready to fight Sergey Derevchenko, which has a lot of lust on that fight. Demetrius Andrade is fighting Billy Joe Saunders for the WBO middleweight belt. And both fights, Jacobs and Andrade fight are championship belts. Jacobs is fighting for the vacant IBF, and Andrade is challenging Billy Joe Saunders for the WBO. So there's a lot of fights that can be made. And then you also got to look at David Lemieux, who scored a sensational. This is where I go from, sensational to a whole nother level where he knocked out Gary O'Sullivan in the first round. And I call it sensational for the fact, not just because of the punch and how it landed, but the lead up to the fight and how Gary O'Sullivan said every nasty word in the book that he could say about David Lemieux. And you know what? David Lemieux made him eat his words, literally. If you look at Gary O'Sullivan, you look at his mustache got straightened out on fight night. This is the movie Gangs of New York. David Lemieux was Bill the Butcher. It was a really, really fantastic knockout, and it sets up a possibility of David Lemieux challenging Canelo for the straps that he just defeated Triple G for. But we're gonna move past that because right in the midst of all that taking place, we got Floyd Mayweather. Oh yeah, Floyd Mayweather calling out Manny Pacquiao, which blew my mind because I'm like, where did this come from? It's like both of them hanging out in Japan. Both of them partying, living it up, and next thing they're just bumping to each other like just walking down the block saying, hey man, how you doing? This is Japan. This is Tokyo, Japan. People just don't meet up out of the blue, And now we got a possibility that they might have a rematch fight. Rumor has it he wants to take a pre-fight before he fights Manny Pacquiao. I don't know what to make of this right now. It's still moving.
I don't like that fight. And let me tell you, if Floyd Mayweather wants to come back, you know what fight I'd love to see? Floyd versus Floyd and Canelo. Run it back.
That would be.
Why not?
I think at this point, Canelo's a bit too big for him. I think Floyd put him at the perfect time. That's why he's such a great fighter, because he's smart also. I think fighting him right now at 41 years old, fighting a Canelo who's a prime middleweight at 160 would be just too tough for Floyd to deal with. My opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
And I see that, but as a fan, I want to see Floyd challenged to an extent. And I'm sorry, much respect to Manny Pacquiao, but I don't know if the result. I don't know if the result really changes with those two. I really don't. I don't know if I really can see Manny Pacquiao beating Floyd Mayweather. I just don't know if I can. I'm much more of a fan if he wants to come back, because Floyd Mayweather's last fight against Conor McGregor was, if that's really how you want to end a beautiful boxing career, it seemed a bit comical to me. But if that's how you really want to go out, you go out like that. However, if he really wants to go on a high note, think about if he beat Canelo. He comes back, beats Canelo, gets the belt. Can you imagine that? What? That's insane. But
I think it's a great idea, but I don't think it could be made. Well, you never know. You know what? You're absolutely right, Pat. You never know if the fight could be made, because it is all about the money at the end of the day. It is all about the money. And I think a fight between him and Canelo could be made. They already made the first one. They made tons of money in the first one. A fight against Canelo at 160, that would really solidify his legacy.
100%.
Well, his legacy is already solidified. His legacy is already solidified. But that would probably get him a $200 million check as opposed to $150 million.
Exactly, right? I think even as general boxing fan is going to be like, the Canelo fight was so long ago. Canelo's developed, but we just kind of saw that Pacquiao fight not too long ago. And as Pacquiao really gotten better, because he's on the tail end of his career as well, I think a prime ready Canelo is much more of an interesting fight and a bigger payday. But let's be realistic. It's very risky.
And
a very risky fight.
Dangerous fight at that. Yeah, dangerous.
It's very risky.
Floyd, like he always says, Floyd always says, I'm in the business not to get hit. And I think right now, fighting Canelo in his prime at 160, knowing all the issues that Canelo's already had thus far with the banned substance testing twice with him, and he just went 36 rounds. He just went a hard 24 rounds. 24 rounds with Canelo. You tasted the biggest puncher supposedly the biggest puncher in boxing power for 24 rounds. And to go fight Floyd, I don't think Floyd can, I don't know. I'm going to just leave that alone. I would leave it alone.
And I 100% agree with you.
You never know what could take place with the fact of, like you say, dare to be great, you never know.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the fact that that if they did fight, if GGG and Canelo fought Thursday, I think GGG's getting stopped. I think he got.
Yeah.
It was a great fight, hands down, instant classic. But I agree with you. I think honestly, Canelo just seems to get better, and it just seems like he outclassed GGG in some areas. And I just think with a third fight, I think Canelo just puts a closing statement on that trilogy if it were to happen, and it certainly could. However, but if Floyd Mayweather is going to enter the picture again, we had to throw that out there, just in case it happens one day, and I could be like, oh, look at that.
And one thing I wanted to touch on also, outside of Floyd Mayweather and Triple G, was our Facebook Fight Night Live. They just announced a great partnership with Everlast. And I think it's amazing of what they're doing. I actually know some of the guys over there. I've done work with them. I plan to continue to do work with them. I am going to do some work with them. They have put together a great plan to bring fight fans. Not only have we already been doing it, but they're doing it on a level where now you have a great sponsor in Everlast to help secure like how you say, you're securing your spot, your lane, where everyone else is at as well. Because as you can see what's taking place in the big landscape of boxing is being delivered to the fight fans in a much easier way with the Facebook Fight Night Live type of platforms and with the Zone platform where you can call in or you can order and pay a monthly fee, or ESPN app and you can watch certain fights with the app for a monthly fee. And Showtime is getting ready to pretty much put something together similar if they haven't done so already, and with PBC expanding as well. A lot of it's a great thing that Mark Fratto is doing with Linux Media and Facebook Fight Night Live. There's going to be a lot of fights taking place in the weeks to come. They have at least 24 fights lined up. I'm pretty sure they're going to be scattered throughout the whole United States, East Coast, West Coast, North, South. Fight fans are going to love it. They're going to love the interaction with the announcers, the commentators, and the fights are nonstop action. It's a great to build up the local talent, and build up that fan base for the young fighters. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. So I'm excited about that. And then, Saturday we got this big old heavyweight fight with Alexander Povetkin and Anthony Joshua. I just don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised if Povetkin pulled off the upset. I really wouldn't be. A lot of people are writing Alexander Povetkin off. He's also a fighter who was caught with bad substance in his body and his system. However, that test was overturned. That ruling was overturned. But he's a pretty good fighter that could punch. So I would not be surprised if he slipped in and caught a nice little left hook over Anthony Joshua's right hand. And if he catches him, that's it for Joshua. That's it for everything with the Zone, in my opinion. I shouldn't say that. Excuse me, I shouldn't say that. Let me take that back. Because the Zone has a great crop of fighters. So let me take a step back from that. And they have an amazing platform. Natural Boxing, the Zone, they have an amazing platform. So let me take a step back. I think if Povetkin scores the upset, it sets up another fight for him after that with maybe the winner of Wilder and Fury or him against Dillian White. But I do believe it's definitely going to be a hit to Matchroom Boxing if Povetkin scores the upset. That's the way I should say it. Because like I said, the Zone and Matchroom Boxing, they're great at what they're doing. They're really bringing boxing and giving boxing a newfound life, just like PBC is doing, and a lot of everybody else Facebook Fight Night Live. But I do believe if Anthony Joshua gets clipped, it's going to be a little tough trying to come back from that. I'll tell you that.
And he reminds me of a Francis Ngannou in a way. If you don't know who that is, he's a UFC fighter. He's a freak athlete. He's just a freak. And it's just one of those things to whereas, like you said, I don't know what I'm trying. I know what I'm trying to say, but it's hard to say. Yeah, he's a great athlete,
I
right?
get it.
And, it's just kind of like on the fence of, is this a guy that if you're a boxing trainer, you just really want to mold him into just to a straight boxer? Or how do you balance training athleticism, strength, conditioning, all that kind of training on top of technique training? And for, I think, other guys, it's easier to, right? If you're not as athletically capable as someone as Anthony Joshua at the heavyweight division, right, and you work a lot more on technique, a lot more on just developing punching power, a lot more specifics for the sport, I think you're more prone to an upset. And I think a guy like Anthony Joshua, granted, he obviously trains his ass off, but the methods of training is what I'm trying to get at. I know a lot of athletes that they train very, very, very hard. These are even friends even. However, they're not really specifying their sport. If you get what I'm trying to say, they're not doing a lot of specific training. What if they spent all that time doing specialized training for this sport? How much better would they be? Or would they be better? You know what I mean? I think it's a big debate in sports in general, not just boxing or MMA or anything like that. I think just all sports, how much more do we have to work on building athleticism and strength, and how much more should we actually just work on building technique? But I just throw my 2 cents out there for that. Because Anthony Joshua is one of those freak athletes, right? You see the guy. The guy's absolutely jacked. I mean, it's unreal. It's unreal. But, yeah, what do you think about that, though, X? I mean, as athletes training like this, do you have anything to say about that? Or?
I think, in that regard, I think you have to have balance. You have to have balance, and it's something that just doesn't come overnight, as you know. He's a physically fit beast in a sense. Like he's just like huge. He's a huge, brawny man that can really box. That has great technical skill. I shouldn't say great, but pretty good technical skills. That's the reason why he's been able to literally manhandle all of his opponents, with the exception of Vladimir Klitschko. Some say Joseph Parker gave him a lot of difficulty. I kind of disagree. I think he kind of wanted to box Joseph Parker. I think he wanted to pick up on some things by fighting of the style that Joseph Parker presented. I think a younger Klitschko would have really gave Joshua some problems, but hey, you fought him at the time that you were supposed to fight him. You got past the fight. You got up from a tough knockdown, to get up to knock your opponent back down, and to not only knock him down, knock him out, and claim add a couple of belts to your legacy. So Joshua is a really, really tough opponent for anybody. He's 6'6", he's strong, he's compact. He can be a little whimsy at times, and when I say whimsy, I mean that killer instinct. But when that switch goes on, he's on. When he sees red, he's on you. Sometimes and I say that because sometimes he has opponents hurt early, and he may not realize it, or maybe it's me. Maybe he's just taking the time to take the opponent out. But I do know when he knows he really has an opponent hurt, he goes right after it. He's in killer mode. So I'm just hoping that it's going to be a good fight with him and Povetkin. Like I said, you never know how them punches will land. Povetkin is known for getting clipped also early in fights. Getting hit with good shots, I should say. And Klitschko dominated him, and so we'll see. We'll see. Povetkin is fighting a bigger guy, not just in height, but in size. So he'll be punching up in a sense.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to that fight. As well, I'm looking forward to tomorrow, which is Thursday. I'm looking forward to seeing the press conference. I'm looking to see what Jon Jones does next. I'm really looking forward to see what happens with Canelo next. There's a lot of great things to look forward to in both sports here.
And if I'm there, I will definitely bring you some footage.
All right. Well, that wraps up everything I had to talk about. Is there anything else that you need to discuss, X, or?
No, I think we covered it this week. Because we got some things in the works. We got some things we're planning on. We'll probably have a special guest next week.
Yes.
Yeah, so, we want people to just stay tuned, stay locked in. We got some things coming. We taking our time. But we're getting there. And when we get there, you're going to be there with us.
All right. Now, we're going to switch it up this week, X. Where can they find you at on social media to follow you, see what you're doing on a day-to-day basis?
They can look for me on social media under Floyd Mayweather. I'm joking. But I was going to say, they can look for me at Mayweather Promotions, Manny Pacquiao, I forgot the fight for now. They can look for me at BrooklynFights 1, Shoot the 5-1, or Xavier Porter 227 on Instagram. They can also follow me on Twitter at Xavier Porter 227, and they can also follow me on Facebook. But if you click a friend on Facebook, you better be a fan of the Shoot the 5 podcast. Don't follow unless you're a fan. Now, where can they find you at?
Pat, P-A-T, 8 Lax on Instagram. Yes. Right. That's it. That's pretty much all you can follow me on. That does it for this week. Tune in next week, guys. We will recap UFC Fight Night 137. We will talk about, hopefully, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu if the news pops out. I'm waiting on something to be revealed, so hopefully that comes out. We will also, of course, have a flood of boxing news as well. Other than that, stay tuned and shoot the 5.